let's now switch to the developer. You know, writing code can often be a frustrating process, particularly when you're working with a new framework. And perhaps one of the best things about web development is how immediate it is. You know, you can make changes and you can see them reflected in real time without the painful edit, compile, run, debug cycle that slows down traditional development. With Flutter, we've taken a lot of inspiration from that model. And here to show you how fun it can be to develop with Flutter are Emily and Matt. Hey, you guys.
Hello.
So, hopefully, so far, you've seen a whole bunch of really cool and beautiful apps built in Flutter. What we want to do is show you something a little different, what it's actually like to build a Flutter app, what the developer experience is like. So we've got a laptop, we have a mobile phone, and what we're going to do is we're going to start to play around with some code, because one of the things that we feel Flutter really gives you as a developer is a really, really nice development experience. So we're going to mirror our mobile phone onto our laptop, and we are going to build ourselves an app. And it's all going to go swimmingly, because this is actually going to be live.
Got a ADB not responding.
And we're starting off really well, because our ADB is not responding. Yes! I'm going to keep talking about how wonderful the development experience is.
Why don't you
not necessarily the plugging the phone in and getting going experience.
Why don't you tell them what we're going to build?
Ah, OK. So we're going to play around with clocks, because we feel that clocks are underrated as apps. And we're going to actually try to make them interesting. But the real reason we're doing it is because what we did was initially, as you'll see any second, honestly, I really, really promise, is that we put a very, very basic app together. And what this app is a countdown app. And when we click go, it's going to start counting down. And we didn't put a reset button in there. So this is going to count down to 0, and that is going to keep us honest as to what we're going to build. And we're going to see how this goes. So we're up and running. Great. We're going to take about 30 minutes to...
15.
We're going to take 25 minutes.
15.
We're going to take 20 minutes.
10.
Right, 15. We're going to take 15 minutes
Let's
to
split the
build
difference
out
and make
an
it
app.
12.
Emily rounds down. We're going to take 12 minutes, and we're going to build out... Oh, and you've already started it. OK. So, Emily, why don't we explain roughly how our basic app works?
Yeah. So as Matt mentioned, we have a countdown app written in Flutter because, and as you can see, it's rather boring. But we were wondering, what if countdown apps could be fun, as Flutter is fun? And what if countdown apps could be beautiful? This is not yet beautiful. So let's take a look at what we have written here. So we've got a simple clock. And if you ever come across a clock in your lifetime, you...
We're not going to explain clocks. People get clocks.
Oh, OK, OK.
And we have 11 minutes and 24 seconds left.
OK. OK. So as you all experienced, this clock's tick. Every second, time is passing. And so what we have here is we've got a stream that our program can subscribe to, and every second an event occurs saying the amount of remaining time that is left. Mm-hmm. And so we can subscribe to the stream, and on our simple clock, we can build based on that stream. So we have this stream builder. We are listening to that countdown stream, and then based on each time we get an update, aka a second has passed, we're going to print that text. Mm-hmm.
So the moral of the story here is time is inexorably counting down, and we need to get busy. So we're going to make our lives even more harder, because Emily and I could not agree on what we were going to build. I wanted to build a retro clock, because I love my 70s chic.
And I wanted to showcase the fact that we can use so many different features with our mobile phones, so we're going to be building a photo app, because interactive timers are the best.
So in 10 minutes and 15 seconds, we are going to try to build 2. And the reason, again, we're using the stream is because we can actually build these, and we can combine them into this app, and we can use the same timer, so we cannot cheat. Right, so where am I going to start? Let's take a look here. Let's close that down. And I am starting here with basically a blank file. I have nothing. And I'm going to start with a widget because in Flutter, everything begins with a widget. In the beginning, there is a widget, and I'm going to call this retro clock.
And as you can see, we have this widget has a build method. This is what gets called when you're drawing the particular widget to screen, which is not yet being drawn. And yeah.
Okay, so what screams 70s chic to you?
Orange and brown.
Orange and brown is one, but also wood grain. So we're going to add some wood grain in. We're going to start there. I bet you all thought you were going to see something awesome, and now you're going to get retro wood grain. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a stack. And the reason I'm using a stack is that we can layer widgets on top of each other with a stack, and I'm going to start with the wood grain.
Yes, and so right now this stack has one widget in it, but spoiler alert, there's going to be more widgets on top.
And because we want to be able to see all of our clocks, what are we going to use?
Yes, we'll wrap this in a page view, which will allow us to swipe between the different clocks, since we want to be able to see all of them as our time counts down.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap page view. We're going to put retro clock first.
Bold move.
And lo and behold, oh, is this disconnected?
It did.
It did disconnect. This is going so well. Oh, this is awesome. I knew we should have used the iOS simulator. Bear with us while we just reconnect here.
Just make
Now,
sure.
you see, the problem here is that we're not only counting down, so the app restarts, it doesn't start at the same, or at a new time, or at the beginning time. We're persisting this to the device. So it's probably still clicking down at this moment in time. So we're not going to get any more extra time to work in this. We're going to be able to constrain ourselves even further. With Flutter, even though it isn't quite obvious to you at the moment, what you can actually do is you can develop really nicely with the phone plugged in. And you can hot reload over to that phone, and it can be iOS or Android. We work equally well with emulators and simulators. And I even do funky things like... Did I mess up?
You added a few too many parentheses.
Did I add too many parentheses?
Yes.
Did I actually do that?
Yes.
Why do I have a job?
Yeah, you're creating empty
I used
statements.
to write
that are-
Lisp. This was easy back then.
All right, let's give this
Can
another
I keep
go.
going now?
Yes.
Okay, are we doing that?
It's,
Do you trust me?
It's relaunching.
Will I actually get back at the keyboard now?
Yeah. I'll go for it.
Okay, I'm going for it. Wow. Okay.
So while that's reloading, as we mentioned, we've stored our time in the preferences. Oh, there we go.
Oh dear me, it's wood grain. Yes.
If
Oh,
only-
there we go. Yeah, wood grain. Wonderful.
If only we knew what time it was, Matt.
If only we knew what time it was. It's too late. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put back in simple clock, because with simple clock, everything is a widget and we can reuse widgets. And lo and behold, we have an incredibly difficult time that we can't read. So let me style that up a bit. And we will put that in. And OK, so we have 8 minutes and we've gotten to wood grain and a clock. So
I think you've achieved Swedish minimalism.
I think I have. So let me fix that. I'm going to put in a clock frame widget. And in my clock frame widget, what I'm going to use here is I'm going to use a card. And
Yeah, so a card is, it's just like a container. You can give it color, and it has some elevation, it has some nice edge. You can round the edges, make it stand out.
Exactly. And again, I can just swap out my widgets as I build this up. And there we go. We have a card, which is kind of boring. So let's make it a little more framey. So I can give it a shape, and I can give it a border. And this border, border, color, some roundedness. And there we go. OK, so that's looking more clock-like, right?
That is, although I thought this was supposed to be a retro clock, and this is looking pretty darn digital.
OK, so I can do something about that. I can create yet another widget and start to stack them up. And this time I'm going to create a clock face. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use and cheat, and I'm going to use a package built by one of our community.
Yes, so someone else in our community wrote this really cool package called Flip Panel, and Matt wrote some styling around that, and he has a variant called Flip Digit, and we are using that.
But we have a problem. Because I'm no longer using retro clock or simple clock, so I don't actually have a clock anymore, so I need access to that countdown stream.
So yeah, Matt is going to use an inherited widget to pull down that stream so we can listen and receive updates.
And I am going to swap out my simple clock now with my clock face. And whoa, there we go. Best clock ever. Wait, there's more. We're not done yet.
Yeah, but I would like to see how many minutes we have.
You don't want to see how many minutes we have left, seriously.
You're right, I don't. Let's just, yeah, okay, fine.
Can I close my parentheses? No, I can't. So let's reuse that. So what I'm doing here is I'm simply creating a row, so I can lay things out horizontally, and I'm going to put in 4 flip digits, one for each, the tens, the seconds, the ones, and whatnot. And I'm going to save that. And there we go. I think at this point, this is retro enough.
Yeah, it's good. And I'm ready to take over the keyboard.
I'm getting kicked off. Okay, fair enough. Good. So hopefully you've seen, if you balance your parentheses, coding Flutter is relatively straightforward, composing widgets together. And what I've done is I've created something with, basically by styling up a bunch of pieces, a little bit of animation of using a package. We're going to get a little more advanced now because what Emily wants to build is a photo clock.
Yes,
So what Emily is using here is she's using a stateful widget, which is, I was using stateless because I didn't have any state to follow. Emily's going to have a little bit of state to manage later on, and we'll get back to that in a minute when it becomes obvious. So we have this stateful widget, and inside, what are we doing when we run this thing?
Yeah, so with stateful widgets, you have this init state method that you can call when the first time that a stateful widget is called. Hold on, I'm just going to put in a clock here so we know how we're doing.
So you can see here that we have, we're using the camera plugin, which is one of the plugins built by the Flutter team, which gives you full access to all of the cameras and camera activities / things you can do on both iOS and Android. And what we want to do is we want to take a photo every minute. And we really want to hurry up because we only have 4.5 of them left. So we're going to, Emily's done some funky math to basically say every time we hit 0 on the seconds, take a picture. We're doing the right thing with permissions. So
yeah, what you saw is I initialized the camera, and so it was asking me for permissions to use the camera.
And so technically in 7 seconds, we're going to get a photo taken. So we shall do our first selfie. And by the power of Flutter, there is a photo taken. Isn't that wonderful? We have our word for it, so let's actually show something.
All right, so I'm going to put this in a column so we can put the clock and then the image that we took just below it. And then I wrote a widget ahead of time called Film Strip. That, so you remember we were talking about streams for the time. We also set up a stream that is listening to the file system. So when we take a photo, we are writing to file system, and we have a listener. And then when that is updated, we tell Flutter that we need to rebuild. So I'm going to add that in.
We're going to add this in. We're using a column here. I used a row earlier, so this should vertically style it. And fingers crossed, we have a selfie. So this is great. We can only, well, we're going to need
another
a second
picture
photo.
coming up.
All right, so I'm going to get in here. I'm going to get my selfie. This is going to be great. So we got 3, 2, 1, and photo. So we're going to make this so we can scroll back to the other photo, right?
Yes. Oh,
Okay,
yes,
good.
because I like the first one better.
Okay.
So let us switch this out. Right now, we're showing the first of the film images. So instead, we're going to use a list view, and we're going to scroll horizontally through all of the photo paths.
And so we have managed to squeeze in stacks, columns, rows, and list views, almost by accident, but we got them all in. And so now we can scroll through these photos, and this is great. And we're starting to get somewhere. But we're not quite done yet, are we?
No, I'm going to add some styling. So first...
Even though I ate up all your time, you seem to be making some up, and we still have 2 minutes and 10 seconds left.
Yes.
Okay.
So, all right, so first I'm going to add some images just to make it look a little more like a camera. Oh, I'm glad that Dash could visit.
There we go.
She may have even visited the haberdashery. No. All right, so I'm also going to set some styling to make this fill in. Let's see. I've got a nice font.
So we're going to style up the time, and we're going to make it not look super modern. We're going to go Art Deco. This is going to be fairly eclectic. So we have the time ticking down. We have some styling around it. What else do we need to do? Oh, we're going to put in a... we have 2 cameras in this phone, not one. And we can access both of them. So what we can do here is we can pop in a button, and that's going to let us
Switch the direction of the
switch
camera.
the direction of the camera.
So it's pretty easy button. You can see here when the button gets pressed, we are going to switch the direction of the camera. And this is where the statefulness of the widget comes into place. We're setting the state, and here I'll show you. So you see that if you tap the button, you can see the text will change. And so it's changing state. Now, the alignment is a little wonky, so I'm going to fix that. Make it centered. And OK, there's one more thing we're going to do.
We have 35 seconds. What are we going to do?
So there's a really cool another third-party plugin that has this kind of explosion animation. And so
We're going to make our elf self-destruct in 22 seconds.
Yes. So I wrote this.
Not that we made it self-destruct already, at least twice.
Yes,
Okay.
well. OK, so we're going to
make it.
We're going to make it.
OK. We got 10 seconds.
We are going to make it.
House lights, please. I want everybody to raise their arms. 3, 2, 1. Say cheese. Cheese. Oh, look at that. There we go. Woo! Fireworks. We've subjected you enough live coding, so we'll stop it there.
And
Thank you very much.
to enough adrenaline. Yeah. Rest easy now.
I have so much respect for those guys. To pull that off in that length of time is just amazing. Whew. So over the last couple of months, we spent a lot of time talking with companies and developers who are building with Flutter and learning a little bit about how they're using it. And in particular, as we've got towards 1.0, we were interested to see what things did we need to continue to invest in. And so there's a bunch of things that we've been sort of working on and adding over the last couple of months, particularly in the run-up to Flutter 1.0. So firstly, developers told us, as Will mentioned, they wanted to see support or better support for building apps that fully model the iOS design guidelines. So we've added lots more widgets and classes that make it possible to build those pixel-perfect experiences for iPhone. Secondly, as Philip showed, developers want to be able to integrate other platform content into Flutter apps. So we've done the heavy lifting work to bring this directly into the Flutter compositor. And so that's how you saw the Google Maps work. And in the last week, we've published developer previews of a Google Maps plugin and also a web browser plugin. And then we heard loud and clear that developers want to be able to add Flutter to existing apps rather than just creating new apps with Flutter. This has actually been possible for a while. But we've done a lot of work over the last couple of months to improve the tooling, the build process, the debuggability of this scenario. And we'll continue to invest in this space over the next couple of months. And of course, that's not all that's in Flutter 1.0. We fixed a bunch of bugs. We've continued to refine and polish it. One feature I'm particularly proud of is adding localization of the UI content to 50 languages, from Arabic to Vietnamese, Marathi to Swiss German. We even support English. Many of these have come thanks to community contributions. So thank you if you've been involved in that process also. Lastly, Flutter 1.0 includes Dart 2.1, which adds additional compile time checking, increased performance, and reduced code size. A recent study of GitHub pull requests shows that Dart is one of the fastest growing languages. And that's also backed up by the latest edition of the TOBE index. And as you'll see later, Dart gives Flutter unique advantages because of its versatility as a platform. OK, so we've done design, we've done develop. We're now going to move on to talk about another part of the development process, connecting to external services. As I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons why Flutter is so productive for mobile development is the package ecosystem. We deliberately made the core of Flutter as small as possible, and we use the plugin model ourselves to ship new features out of band. We already have over 1,000 Flutter plugins, covering everything from video playback to Facebook authentication, SQLite to GraphQL. These packages are fully open source, many of them are contributed by the community, and they make it easy to add support for new services. For mobile developers, Firebase provides an array of key app services, such as analytics, databases, sign-in, push notifications, and crash reporting. Most of them are already supported with first-party Flutter integrations. And Flutter 1.0 increases this support further. To show how these plugins come together to make Flutter apps even more connected, please welcome Maurice Parrish to the stage. Maurice, great to see you.
Thank you, Tim. All right, let's get logged in here. Make sure everything's connected. Oop. So it looks like we're going to have to reconnect this. All right. Here we go. Perfect. Hey, everyone. My name is Maurice, and I'm an engineer that works on Flutter's plugins. I would like to show you something cool that we've been adding to Flutter. As you can see here, we have an avatar of me. And just like the timeline app, the design and animation has been provided using Flare. Right now, the avatar is just standing idle. That's kind of boring. So what we can actually do is we can move these sliders. We can have his face animation move. And have some funny expressions as well. We can even give him a big smile. But instead of using sliders, what if we could have his facial expression match mine automatically using the power of machine learning? So let's look at the code. So to achieve this, we're going to need two plugins. We're going to need the camera plugin, and we're going to need the ML Kit plugin. So since this app has already been pre-configured for the camera and the ML Kit, we're just going to dive straight into the code. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to create a class that will facilitate taking images from the camera and passing it to the face detector. So I've already gone ahead and created a class called Face Expression Reader that does just that. So this class has three main components. It has the camera controller, which controls access to the camera. Then we have the face detector, which runs ML models on images to detect faces. And the last part is we have the init method, which sets everything up. So what we're going to do is we're going to implement the init method. And what I love about Flutter is how easy it is to get started with the camera. It only requires 2 lines. The first one is the constructor, where we show that we want access to the front camera. And the second one, we show that we want low-resolution images. And then the second line, we just initialize the camera, and that's all that we need. The next step is to initialize the detector. And just like the camera, it's just as easy to set up. All we do is we get an instance of face detector from Firebase Vision. However, the default face detector only tells you the location of faces in an image. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to set some options so it can actually read face expressions. Here we go, reformat. So the options we're going to set so it can read facial expressions is we're going to enable classification and have the detector run in accurate mode. Now, last but not least, we're going to want to continuously stream bytes from the camera to the detector. And I've already gone ahead and created a helper method to do just that. So in this method, all we do is we pass the camera and the detector we just initialized, but I also pass a method that updates the face expressions reader every time we get a new result face from an image. So we can actually take a quick look at this helper method. It's actually fairly short. All we really do is we call this upcoming method called start byte stream on the camera. Every time we get an image, we take this image, we pass it to our detector, and then after we get the result for our detector, we update our face expression reader. So now that we set all that up, let's go ahead and go to our main.dart. We're going to want to go down to our state class. So I've already gone ahead and created an instance of the face expression reader, the class we just implemented, and I called it reader. So the very last thing we need to do to get this working is that we need to add a listener to the reader. And here we go. Now with this listener, the face expression reader will update our avatar every time it gets a new face. So we're going to go ahead and run hot restart. And the reason we're going to run hot restart instead of hot reload is because since we changed our init state method, we want to rebuild the entire state of our class. Let's see. I think it's already set up. Let's see. There we go. There we go. So not only can it just tell if I'm smiling or not, we can actually add a little bit more. So we're going to go ahead and run another hot restart. And what we did is that we have we're going to update the eyes, and we're going to update the tilting of the head. So if I hold this up to my face again, close my eyes, tilt right and left, it updates in real time. All right, so now that you've seen how easy it is to use MLKit, hopefully you'll consider it using it in your app as well. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Maurice. So as Flutter is now at the point where it's starting to gain this critical momentum, we're starting to see other major companies add direct support. As an example, today we're announcing a new partnership that we think will open Flutter to a new class of applications. Mobile phones are increasingly being used for payments, both for digital and physical goods. Square are one of the pioneers of payment services for retailers and consumers. And I'm delighted to introduce Ella Polo to the stage to talk about how you guys are extending Flutter. Welcome.
Thank you, Tim. At Square, we believe the economy is better when everyone has access. No one should be left out because the cost is too high or the technology too complex. We started with a little white reader that let millions of merchants participate in the economy by making it easy to take credit card payments with your smartphone. Since then, we've worked hard to create an ecosystem of products that empowers our customers, and our developer platform is a key part of that ecosystem. Our multi-channel payment platform includes APIs and SDKs that let developers integrate payments into the apps they build. Square takes care of the complexity of payments, in person, in-app, and online. So developers can just focus on building great apps. Now, we've been following Flutter since the beta, and we're impressed by how it enables developers to quickly create beautiful and performant cross-platform apps. That's why today, we're so excited to announce 2 new plugins for Flutter development: the Flutter plugin for the Square Reader SDK, and the Flutter plugin for the in-app payments SDK. The Square Reader SDK enables developers to build apps for merchants that take in-person payments using Square hardware. And the in-app payments SDK lets them build consumer apps that take payments directly from buyers. To see this in action, let's meet Collins Family Orchards. They're a great example of a typical small business that runs on Square. Collins Family Orchards is a 4th-generation family farm growing a variety of organic fruits in eastern Washington state. They sell their produce at farmers markets all around the Seattle area, and like many small businesses, they use their phone and a Square Reader to take payments. Now, the Collins family was happy running on Square, but they wanted to build an app to accommodate the specific needs of their growing business. So let's take a look at an app built specifically for the Collins family using Flutter and the Flutter for Square Reader SDK plugin. This app helps them take and track payments at each farmer's market they go to, and has quick location switching built right in. All right, can we see the app here? Yes, it's on the right. You can see that it's branded for Collins Family Orchards, and I'm going to start by signing in. And then I'll choose the location that I'm selling at. So let's say today that I'm at a farmer's market in Bellevue. Great, and I'll enter the amount to charge. But we can see right now that the charge button is disabled, right? So let's take a look at the code really quick. This is the on-checkout function, and this uses the Flutter plugin for Square Reader SDK to start the Square checkout flow. It takes in a set of checkout parameters, and these are the things that determine the behavior of the payment flow. So things like the amount of the transaction, but also whether we want to collect tips or show a receipt screen. And once we start the checkout flow, you'll notice that there's no configuration for the reader here. And that's because once we're in the transaction, Square takes care of talking to the hardware. So this is really all the configuration that you need. And we'll see nothing's calling this checkout function right now. So for the live coding portion of the demo, we're going to do a hot reload and set the charge button to call on checkout when it's pressed. And then I'll click charge to start the transaction. Great. What you're seeing now is the Square checkout flow. If I can find my card. Can we see the reader? Yes. And I'll insert my card to take the payment. Great, and the payment was accepted. Now when we look at the list of transactions for this location, we can see the payment that I just took right there. Great. As you can see, it's really easy to add payments into your Flutter app with Square. The Flutter plugin for the Square Reader SDK is available today, and the Flutter plugin for the in-app payments SDK is available for early access. And you can read more about both at squareup.com/Flutter. We're really excited to be partnering with Google on this and to see what more we can do with Flutter in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ella, and thank you, Square. So the last part of the app lifecycle we're going to talk about is release. As you've been hearing throughout the presentation, our goal is to make Flutter the most productive way to build beautiful, fast experiences for both iOS and Android from a single code base. But when it comes to continuous integration, continuous deployment, it sometimes feels like we're still a little bit stuck in the olden days. It's just a little bit too hard sometimes to configure build and test tooling, particularly if you're trying to target both iOS and Android. Lots of knobs and switches and manual configuration. Sometimes feels like being a phone operator in the 1950s. If only there was a build system that understood Flutter. Well, turns out there's a company who's been doing that. Let me introduce Trine Kask from Nevercode. Hi, Trine.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here and celebrate this Flutter Live event with people here and online. So, hey, people online. So, at Nevercode, we've been building our continuous integration and delivery product for mobile developers in companies such as Toyota, Walmart, and Sainsbury's, to name a few. And we've seen them struggle with setting up the whole development process for iOS and Android separately. So when we heard what Flutter does and how it actually changes the way how mobile apps are developed, we were convinced that the whole CI/CD experience needs to be re-engineered. So I'm proudly presenting you our brand new product, Code Magic. Woo! So I'm going to show you how it works, and I'm going to show how easy it is to set up the whole pipeline to build your Flutter apps on Code Magic. So actually, the beauty starts already when you join with your GitHub account, because you see, it automatically understands your Flutter apps and pulls them to Code Magic. And it's very easy. You just kick off the first build, and voila, it starts. You see the whole process here on one screen. So, of course, normally you would have webhooks that trigger the builds from GitHub after each commit. But the underlying thought when we were building this product was that it needs to be seamless, it needs to be intuitive, so that even a person with no prior CI/CD experience can start very, very quickly. So just to demonstrate to you some of the, the UI that we have in mind. For example, I'm taking this. Oh, there's a huge lot. Okay, here's a failed build. Because you want to know, why things are failing sometimes. So here you see that the build failed because it failed to install dependencies, and here you get more information like what happened to make the next decisions. And then, if you want to configure your app more on Code Magic, because it's not just for hobbyists or freelancers, it's also for hardcore developers who maybe want to experience a more sophisticated product. So you just go to the app settings here. You see, seems like just small steps, but actually you can customize here a lot. For example, I have chosen that I only want to build the Android app. And for example, in publishing, you can publish automatically to Google Play or App Store. And we also support out-of-the-box integration, code signing with iOS and Android. So as I'm on Slack very often, then of course, I want my notification to end up in Slack channel. So I have chosen here that I want to know when the build starts and when it fails, or when the artifacts are published. So let's go see how far are we building this app currently. Okay, so you see that it's currently building the Android app, and already you can open up the steps to see everything what's going on here. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. And another thing that I also wanted to mention that if I go here to app settings, is that you can also actually duplicate your workflows according to the user groups. Maybe you want to have them to different people, to testers, beta testers, some other team in your company. Okay, it shows that the build was successful. So I'm just going to the build. And here, everything is green. It's a very nice green. So I promised that they should be on Slack, so let's go check out my Slack channel. And they are! Great! The artifacts are actually here. So, I'm convinced that Flutter plus CodeMagic is the fastest route to get your apps to the hands of your end users. So I invite everybody to join and sign up at codemagic.io. It's free. It's live now. You can just go crazy. And then you can also join our Slack channel where all the other Flutter fans are and just share your experience, learn from others. So I think it will be awesome. Thank you.